All righty. Well, thank you very much for coming today. I It's so much easier to have people to talk back and forth to instead of doing this by myself. So I am very grateful for everybody that did make it. This class is fully online, and every semester people say, "Well, I can't make it to the meetings, and we're going to lose my grade." Well, no, the meetings are so that we have an opportunity for at least some of us to talk to each other and address issues and questions regarding the upcoming projects and everything, and also to share successes that you've had. If you cannot make it, you just watch the recording later. We do have a class YouTube channel, and after a class is over and I upload it, everybody will have access to the link. Whether you come to the live Teams meeting or you watch the recording, you still can get the 5 points of attendance credit, just exactly the same way. But like I said, I really appreciate it when people come and are here live. I will also periodically ask questions, and I'm hoping that everybody will get a chance to respond or say something during the course of our time together. Although you do not need to attend live in order to get an A, I've noticed that there is a significant propensity for those who do attend live to get A's than otherwise. If you attend it as a recording, I still have an awful lot of A's doing that. In that case, try to do your best to listen to and pay attention to the recording, and make sure you reach out to me with any questions you might have, and I will either address them in the next week's Teams meeting or uh, directly with you. I would like to get an idea from people as to where I'm not talking about where everybody's from physically necessarily, although you can say that if you'd like, but more, what is your emphasis? What's your major? What are the things that you are specifically interested in the artsy fartsy world? And I don't know, you probably don't see the same organization of people that I do. So I'm just going to go through, and unless you want to volunteer right now, I will just start calling names and just give us um, really quick a rundown. Like, I was a tattoo artist until I was 7, and then I decided to go into watercolor, or whatever it is. I mentioned that because my youngest is a tattoo artist. Anyway, for example, I will start. My background is in math, engineering, and computer science. During the 90s, I don't know if any of you were alive during the 90s, I was one of the guys that designed fonts for word processing programs, because those little pixelated letters had to be designed by somebody. I was heavily into computer engineering. I thought that's what I would do for the rest of my life. And I kind of backed up into watercolor and stained glass and shifted to that, and found out I could do a job where I design and build stained glass windows, and started doing that. Then, about 25 years ago or so, I came across a book by a monk named Theophilus. And he was alive during the tail end of the Crusades, I believe. And he started recording what people were doing, what artists were doing, different aspects of building cathedrals. And it was just amazing to me to know that people could be so precise with hand tools just by using ordinary math and geometry, that I pulled away from computer science and just started delving really deeply into traditional arts. And I so now, in addition to doing stained glass, I also make paper. I do bookbinding. I create inks and my own paints, um, and I focus a lot on traditional mysticism from different cultures. And I'm a pluralist chaplain. Also been to Iran. I was trained at 2 different universities there in traditional Islamic art and philosophy. So all that from starting out designing fonts for word processing programs. Okay, now I'm going to start calling out names. Just tell us really briefly what your principal focus is in art right now, and what I'm not going to ask you what you expect to learn from this class because I don't really want you to have a lot of expectations, but maybe a little bit of where do you see your career going? Like, are you a graphic artist and that's really what you want to do? Or are you a graphic artist that wants to slide into other things? So let's start with Rachel Davis. You don't have to turn on your camera if you don't want to. You can
That's
just use
okay. I
it.
don't mind. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I do have three little kids at home with me, so I will try to be quick so you don't hear them. My major is art education, and so I will be qualified to teach 6th through 12th grade any art class once I graduate. So I have always my favorite things to do in art are painting and drawing. Those are my strong suits, and I have been obsessed with art since I was a little girl. Um, my mom was an artist, so I think I get that from her. And so career-wise, yeah, I'll be a teacher. And honestly, I never felt good enough at art to be like a professional. Um, so anyways, yeah, I still love it, and I will hopefully be a teacher at the end of this. So
Thank you very much, Rachel.
yeah.
Have any of you heard of a painter named Paul Klee? His last name is spelled Klee. He was a stalwart of the Bauhaus in Germany. But he felt the same way. He felt he was an art educator. He didn't really think of himself as a professional artist. And he was the backbone of the design for the Bauhaus. You guys know what that is, don't you? That is, it was an art school that is so um, mind-blowingly relevant, even over 100 years ago, that all of our present day web design and user interface is based directly on design developed by Bauhaus. And Paul Klee thought he was just a teacher. So I'm just saying. All right,
Thanks.
Sarah Todd.
Makes me feel better.
Hi, so uh my emphasis is in illustration, and I either want to like illustrate children's books or either go into the gaming industry. I haven't really decided yet, but yeah.
Do you like things like Kubo and the Two Strings?
I
That kind
haven't
of a
heard of that.
design?
No, is it good?
Oh, it is. It is one of the most astonishingly well done motion capture movies ever. And there is a huge world building game based on that kind of style of animation. I can't remember what it is, but it's originally a French design, and
Mhm.
it's a space based multiplayer, multi level game where you go and resolve issues instead of shoot everybody up, and it looks like it's all that paper animation
Yeah.
and it takes place in a gigantic spaceship. Does anybody know what game I'm talking about? It it came out about a year ago, and it was called like the Titanic or something like that. But anyway, no, that's really interesting. Did you do the work that's behind you?
I did in high school, yeah.
All right,
I
excellent.
liked dragons, so
Well, I
yeah.
mean, who doesn't really, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
There is a reason that every culture on the planet that left any sort of artistic record has images of dragons. Even petroglyphs in Kenya have images of dragons. And it's not just because they have a metaphysical meaning, it's because little 12-year-olds everywhere in the world think they're awesome.
It's true.
Anyway, that's 20,000 years ago, they still thought dragons were awesome. All right, Jessica, let's hear from you.
All right. Yeah, I'm Jessica. I am currently doing like a focus on painting. Um, I've kind of been artsy fartsy my whole life. I've been down several different paths, and when I originally started college back in 2018. I was going for psychology, and had thought about doing art therapy, but decided school wasn't for me at the time and ended up becoming a barber, and then got sick of that and was like, oh, I want to go back to more of my artistic roots. And I became a framer. Like I started framing custom picture frames. And I worked with a lot of artists, and that actually got me really excited. And I met some people that actually have been going to UVU for art, and they kind of like inspired me to go back. And so I decided to go back last fall. And so I think like painting has been my focus, but lately I've been also thinking about um, education. I'm not fully sure right now. Like I currently I install wallpaper now, and I've thought about doing murals. So I'm kind of all over the place. I like a lot of different things, but so I'm just excited to kind of learn everything and hopefully figure out what I want to do.
That's pretty. Now, have you ever heard of Hilma af Klimt or Carl Jung?
Mm-mm.
Because Carl Jung used art heavily in his therapy. He
Oh,
was a student for a while of the dude with the goatee that said that all little boys love their mom. Freud. Carl Jung was a student of Freud for a while and then separated from him. But he, in his Red Book, he did a lot of his own paintings to work through trauma and issues. Like that's
yeah.
there is a definite connection there that I think is really interesting. And Hilma af Klimt was a woman who really started the abstract movement about 15 years before it officially started. And she did it as private paintings in her own home studio because she got sick and tired of doing drab landscapes for every customer. And it was a way for her to deal with her issues. Right, excellent. Okay, Emily, you're next.
Awesome. Um, can you hear me or no?
Yes, we can hear you. And again, if you don't want to
Okay.
be on camera, that's fine. Just as long as your mic is working, that's great.
No, you're good. I have a headset microphone and no webcam, so this is how this is working. But so I transferred from Utah State a little while ago down to here where I was in the architecture program, well, pre-architecture program. And I loved it, but the program itself, specifically at Utah State, was very, very competitive, and I was not about that so much. So I came down here to study illustration because I love art and I think it's awesome, and there's so many things that would be awesome to do. Like people have already mentioned about game design and movies and stuff like that. Um, but I just couldn't hack it with 200 people competing against me. So here I am.
So you're going into design illustration, is that what you said?
Yes, yeah.
All right, excellent. Very nice. It's interesting to me when people don't see the connection between architecture and fine art. You look at somebody like Frank Gehry, who I think is one of the most amazing Western architects right now, who's still alive, and he considers himself more of a postmodernist sculptor than an architect sometimes. I just think that's really interesting. But nice.
Mhm.
There are some really good teachers. Jessica mentioned painting and stuff. Chris Thornock is one of the painting teachers here at UVU. I've known him for years, and it is irritating to me how somebody like that can be as good as he is. It's very frustrating, and it just I don't want to even try painting after seeing what he does. So you guys all have some really excellent teachers. All right, is it Jassio?
Oh, hi. Yeah. My name is Josiel. Um, yeah, my name is Josiel Ortega. Right now I am focusing on illustration. Before I came to UVU, I was going to school at the Fashion Institute of Technology, in New York. where I was studying interior design. I actually got an associate's in interior design. I switched to illustration because I loved more of the concept conceptual aspect of it all, and just wanting to explore that in my art and stuff. So yeah.
I mean, that's excellent. There are there are a lot of really profoundly good illustrators, and again, I think UVU has some of the finest painters and illustrators in the state, um, in the faculty. So I think you guys have found a really good place to come to. That's all right. Let's hear from Kayla.
Hi, so my name is Kayla Harston, and my major is art and design. I'm thinking about doing going into um, fashion design, and I've always really loved art, and I really like the idea of creating something that will last. And it's really cool how when you look at a person, you're able to learn so much about them based on the way they dress and look how they style their hair and whatnot. I've always found that fascinating, and like how it also ties into like history and culture based off of like clothes, and so I'm excited to get into that. And yeah.
All right, excellent. That's great. I don't see. Oh, I guess I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Well, I was going to BYU. Um, there was a big, huge problem, and Jassiel, some of the things that you were saying kind of reminded me of the situations that came up. But the fine art group wanted to separate from the illustrators and designers group, and over the last 80 years, they have split off, come back together, split off, come back together over and over and over again. And it's really interesting to me because I don't think you can really have fine art without components of communication like you do in illustration. I don't think you can have good design without an awareness of how things fit together in fine art. And so in my mind, when I hear um, people talk about what they do, I think sometimes if you're talking to somebody who labels themselves as a highfalutin, artsy fartsy fine artist, it can get a little bit frustrating because they look down on other issues, even sometimes. And that is not true of all artists. And one thing that I really love about the faculty here is I don't get the feeling that people are looking down or looking side eye or anything like that, depending on what different people are doing. And that's really good to see because there's no reason to. They're just different focuses that people have. Anyway, Peyton, let's hear from you.
Hi. Um, can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Um, so I am majoring in art and design. I'm hoping to become like a concept artist for either like movies or video games. Um, I I've loved art since I was a little kid, but I started going more towards like digital art, and I also love making jewelry and stuff, so I've always loved art.
All right, excellent. And Rachel or Sarah, one of you were also interested in concept design, right? Is that Sarah?
I was more interested in like the game,
Game design.
yeah, game design and the industry.
All right, that kind of stuff is really fascinating to me. All right, excellent, Peyton. Great. How about you, Kim?
I'm going to school for graphic design. But I kind of played around with the idea of like doing illustration or art education or graphic design. I just landed on graphic design because I feel like, I don't know, I guess it makes more sense, but I've just always been really creative, and um, I just have kind of an easy time figuring out how to make things. Like I've done a lot of things like I don't know if you've like heard of well, there's some like YouTube people and I've made props for them before. So I made like a Ghostbusters Ecto unit. You know those the big red thing on the wall. You put the containment thing in there and you like flip the switches and the lights. I did all that. And I used to make miniature haunted houses and I was like featured on Good Things Utah, things like that. So I really love to paint. I've had like my own Etsy businesses. And so I feel like the whole graphic design thing with like coming up with logos and marketing and packaging and everything like that, I've put a lot of time into those types of things with my Etsy I've had in the past. And I've really enjoyed it. So that's just kind of where I felt I should go for now. And just like really excited to be here. I've always wanted to go to art school. And I started in my 20s and I had to stop. But now I'm like 42 and I'm in art school. So I'm like really excited to be here and like learn everything.
That's awesome. Somebody's asking, Emily asked, what's your Etsy store called?
It was called Kim Mini Crafts, like Kim Mini Crafts. It's not open anymore, but it used to just have like I'd build these little houses out of wood, and inside the furniture, like it was all laid out in scenes. But I have an Instagram, so all the pictures of that stuff is on the Kim Mini Crafts Instagram.
All right, cool. So it's Emily, it's Kimini Crafts in Instagram that her stuff is on. That's really cool. I love the fact that we have such a wide array of different people here in this class. And I hope that the game designers and people like that aren't too disappointed. I have had people ask if they could test out of the class because they do 3D wireframe design and stuff like that in the computer realm. And we are working specifically with the kind of stuff that Kim is very familiar with: pipe cleaners, popsicle sticks, gravel, uh, cardboard, lots of different kinds of physical materials because we're building stuff in the actual 3D space, in the 3D realm. And it's exciting to me to hear that so many of you are in 2D, have a background in 2D or digital, because it's going to be really interesting to see what you come up with. It's exciting for me to have a class with a rich diversity of background of students because every semester is going to be different. When I was teaching stained glass, one of the coolest design series that somebody came up with was from a guy that was actually a pre-med student, had nothing to do with art, and he was just taking the class on a whim. We found out later that most of his incredibly awesome abstract designs for stained glass actually came from biopsy slides in his reference manuals. Oh, that's so disgusting. But they were cool designs. So, but this class, since so many people are very comfortable with 2D work, it might be a little difficult. I mentioned in my letter to see if you can find a space that's dedicated to your work to this and commit to chunks of time every week where everybody knows that you're working on this class, so they leave you alone. And you need to defend that space too. I have, over the years, and it averages about one person a semester. Extended family will come for a visit and they'll think they're helping cleaning up the apartment, and they throw away a lot of their stuff on their work table. So don't let that happen. Leave notes up, whatever. But when I say dedicated time too, I'm talking about at least 30-minute chunks of time. And what's going to happen is that the first month or so, you guys are probably going to get headaches, at least tension headaches. We have had people get migraines. But what's going on when you start doing something, when you start practicing a new skill for at least 20 or 30 minutes, that forces your brain to start creating new neuronic pathways. And occasionally that can actually hurt. I, it's not sharp pains or anything like that. It's more attention headache type of stuff. But if you work at things just a couple minutes at a time, you don't even give yourself enough time to set up or get in the right headspace. But if you give yourself at least 30 minutes, that gives yourself an opportunity to train your brain to get into the right uh, kind of mental format to do the work. And if you can get a little bit longer than that, you'll even force yourself sometimes into a state that some people call the flow state. Have any of you had an experience where you look up and all of a sudden you realize it's 2:30 in the morning or the sun is coming up, your back hurts like you would not believe, your leg is falling asleep, and you're just now coming to the senses, realizing that you've been painting or doing something else the entire night? Have any of you had that experience? Anybody else? A week of
Yes.
finals? Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, Kim, Jessica, Sarah. I would, if you guys think about it carefully, I'd be willing to bet that all of you have had that experience. And the reason that I say that, UVU is a school where it really welcomes non-traditional students. It welcomes people that live with both feet planted firmly in the real world. I'd be willing to bet that all of you have at least part-time jobs. All of you have functioned as professional artists at some point where you've sold your work, you've done stuff that you have actually made money out of. And that demonstrates a level of commitment that I don't see consistently in a lot of other schools that I've taught at. Um, and with that level of commitment, you have had experiences where, if you think about it, you realize, yeah, I was doing that and I suddenly came to my senses and realized that hours had passed, or I didn't remember getting from where I started to the place the painting was in when I looked up, or the place the computer design was in when I looked up, or when I started responding to my roommate who'd been yelling at me for the last 15 minutes, and I've been doing work on the digital, in my paint program. All of you have had that experience. And that kind of flow state, I think, is really remarkable, because when we tap into that, we become something more than just a craftsperson. We are creating something special. Any of you ever heard of a guy named Saint Augustine? Anybody heard of somebody named that? He was a monarchist who came to Christianity maybe 1,600 years ago, something like that. And
Yeah.
he was very much a non-Christian. And when he devoted himself to Christianity, he started reframing everything he did in a perspective that related himself back to a creator of some sort. And one of the things he said was that, and whether or not you have a faith or anything like that, I'm not touching on that. I'm just relating what he said that I think is an interesting metaphor. He said that the mark of the creator is present in every human being as a potter's mark or a thumbprint on their soul. And when that human being create something themselves by opening themselves up to something broader to inform them while they create, they emulate their own creator. And I thought that is pretty cool. I know that all of you have probably had the experience where there's a family member or somebody who doesn't really think highly of people who claim to be artists by themselves, but when they see something that you've done, it dawns on them that you can kind of see their eyes as they're thinking to themselves, there is no way I could do that. And there's just for a moment you see a little bit of inexplicable awe behind their eyes at the work that you do. And I just think, so I get, it's exciting for me to work with artists because you're doing something that a lot of people in the world don't recognize that is something that a human being can do. I think that that's pretty cool. Anyway, most of the rest of the time that we're going to be together, I want to talk about what's going on this first module, the first couple things, but also I want to talk about your book, where you've been getting your book from, the seven-sided polyhedra that you made, for those of you who made it. I want to ask where you got your kits from. Is anybody here, did you guys already pick up your kits? I think one or two of you already did.
Not yet.
Okay. Anybody here did get their kit? Okay, and then we're going to talk about the 4 tools of artistic critique, and we're going to talk about the first module. And how I want to do this every week is we will talk about your questions, your concerns, talk about issues in the class that are metaphysical and philosophical. We'll also talk about the module, the assignment, the project. And I would like as many of you as can, turn stuff in early so we can talk about it. We can look at it and talk about it. And I want to mention a story that I was told when I first started at BYU that I think is really important for you guys to all hear too. Once upon a time, there was a little bird that missed the bandwagon when it came to flying south for the winter. And he realized that it was starting to snow. He better start flying now. And maybe already too late, but he was going to go anyway. So he started flying south, and he was going as far and as fast as he could. And it was getting colder and colder and colder, and the snow was getting stronger and stronger. It was blowing more fiercely. And finally, he just couldn't go anymore. And he saw this farm field below him. And he just came to rest in the farm field, and it was snowing. The snow was mounting up. It was getting cold. He was shivering. And he was thinking, oh, man, I'm not going to make it. When a cow sidled up to him, kind of sniffed him a little bit and said, you look pretty cold. And the bird said, yeah, I am. And so the cow moved around, turned around, and then dumped a whole big pile of manure on the head of this little bird. And the little bird was kind of shocked at first, but then very quickly realized that he could start feeling his toes again. He could start feeling his feet and his wings. He was actually warm. This cow's poop had actually saved his life. So as he was sitting there kind of enjoying the warmth, the farmyard cat came up and said to him, hey, you kind of reek a little and you're looking pretty dirty. Would you mind if I cleaned you up? And the bird thought, I'm feeling pretty good. Sure, go ahead and clean me up. So the cat picked the bird up, took him over to a pond that had iced over a little bit, tapped through the ice, and started washing off the bird. And the bird was saying, well, this is nice. I'm getting all clean. And as soon as the bird was all clean, the cat ate him. The moral of the story is just because somebody dumps on you doesn't make them your enemy. And just because they pull you out and make you feel good about yourself doesn't make them your friend. I say that as a precursor as we get into the different kinds of things that we'll be talking about in this class. I know that all of you in your professional art career have had really horrible experiences with something that called critique. A lot of the times the word critique, we line it up with critical, and it has a lot of negative connotations. But I want you to think of something. Critique and critical is not a synonym for negativity or hurtful comments. Critical is actually a synonym for intentional. So when we are talking about critical thinking or critical review, we're talking about intentional thinking or intentional review. And one of the things that we're going to be discussing and paying a lot of attention to is Feldman's method for artistic critique, which is a way of applying your intentional thinking to examining an object and thinking about it, then articulating your observations and thoughts in such a way that you come away with an actual relationship with the object. I'm quiet because I'm trying to remember the 1950s era art critic, that I don't particularly have a lot of positive feelings for. And I can't remember what the person's name was off the top of my head. But one of the things he's famous for saying was, if you don't get it in the first 3 seconds, it's not worth getting. I have a real hard time with that. Have any of you had an experience where you read something, you encountered something, you saw something that at the moment really didn't mean a whole lot, but you come back to it a couple years later and you realize, oh, wow, that's a completely different thing than what I first thought it was. And maybe you even like it. Have any of you had that kind of experience?
I definitely have.
Would you mind sharing what it was? What did you encounter?
I mean, I feel like that happens to me like constantly. Maybe it's just because I'm not, the best and the brightest of them, but I feel like there's often times, especially when maybe I'm in a bad mood and somebody tries to introduce me to something that I'm not predisposed to like, then I have a really hard time with it, and then later on I'll find it on my own and it's the greatest thing ever. And that's I assume funny and relatable for a lot of people, but I do feel like that happens on a small scale all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. Ibn Khaldun, who was a 13th century Muslim philosopher, said that all of us live in a river of time. Everything is constantly changing, and we're impacted by and impact, countless other people. He called it a river of ghosts, but because we're constantly impacted by the thoughts and imagined presences of everybody around us, but the idea of the shifting river of time, yeah, when you first encounter something, you may not like it, and then as you shift and maybe even think in your subconscious mind about some of those things, come back to it later in a completely different frame of mind, your experience is so different, it's hard to believe that the thing you're encountering is actually the same thing. And usually that takes, like for me, it takes me sometimes years for that to happen. But when we apply these 4 tools of artistic critique that I'll introduce you to in just a minute, that shift can actually happen in less than 10 minutes. And I think that's remarkable, because would you rather go through your life despising everything around you and being irritated by stuff, or actually go through your life finding a lot of stuff to enjoy? I don't think that's a very difficult question to answer. But oh, that is weird. I'm sorry, my screen is doing something funny. Okay, and it looks like it's fixed now. Maybe not. Okay, here we go. All righty. I want to show you something really quick. And I'm scowling because I'm trying to get to it. Let's see. And I'm gonna show you really quick our where my view of our Canvas page. And then I'm gonna show you where this is. Can everybody see this? My view of the Canvas page?
Yes.
Okay. So we have several modules, course overview. All of you have been going through that and looking at all those things, lots of stuff to read. And then we have the attendance, where after this is up, we'll put the recording right here, and that's where you submit 5 things that you remember from our time together. Module 1, we'll talk about this in just a second. We'll talk about this. And right here, I want you to go through this module. I don't know how much of you guys have already looked at this, but this is important because we are talking about the tools of artistic critique. And I wrote just explaining why the tools are important, but I want to share this with you and just tell you what to look out for. and be mindful of this throughout the term. As we go into this, when somebody looks at your art, would you rather have somebody tell you something along the lines of, "Oh, that's pretty," or would you have them say something like, "You really put a lot of depth into this, and it looks like a whole world. I could get sucked into it." Which would you rather hear?
I think
The
just
second
that
one.
I put a lot of work into it and people get sucked into it.
Yeah, that's so much better than hearing "that's pretty." And all of you guys have an expansive vocabulary. When we apply the tools of artistic critique, what we are actually doing, we're not trying to tell somebody how they could do something better. We're not pointing out the faults that we see. Artists, we're always are going to be our own worst critics, and it's because we're not seeing the thing that we've made for what it is. We're seeing the thing that we've made as evidence of the things that we've learned while we were making it, so we can always see how we improve it. And that's a reason why we label ourselves as sad perfectionists. But anyway, the tools of artistic critique gives us a way of intentionally looking at something, intentionally describing it, and using precise words to address specific questions that we have in our minds when we look at something. So we're not going to be saying, "Oh yeah, I like that," and leave it at that. Oh, Clement Greenberg, that's the name of the 1950s era art critic who said, "If you don't get it in the first 3 seconds, it's not worth getting." Anyway, I don't agree with that. But these 4 tools, you go through them one at a time, and at the end of it, what you'll have is something that, whether or not somebody agrees with you, you have presented yourself so precisely with the language that you use that they really aren't going to be able to argue with you, and you're going to look profoundly educated, which you are. Now, these 4 tools, I'll mention something. You'll see that as we go through each tool, the later one forces you to apply a lot more of your thinking and imagination than the early one, but all of them make the next one easier when you're able to use precise language as you go through the step. So the first one is description, and this is where you are just sharing what you encounter when you look at the object. The visual facts right here. And these questions are questions to consider. When you do a critique, you're not going to ask the question and answer it out loud, or you're not going to ask the question out loud and then answer it. You're going to ask the question inside your head and use that to inform what you say out loud. And this list of words down here are words to help you get started in being precise with your vocabulary as you go through these steps. So as you describe something, of course, we're going to be talking about color, the textures. Are there rhythms that you see? Is there an emphasis to it that you see visually? And can you point it out? Does it look like it is a small object that is designed to be a maquette for something really big? Or is it designed to be small? Does it feel like the whole thing fits together? Or does it feel like the artist specifically designed it to make you feel like your teeth are on edge? Those are a couple things to consider in the description. And with the analysis, so the description is just what you see, what you're encountering. And then with the analysis, this is where you are stepping inside your head just a bit and extrapolating, how do you think the artist put that together? What kinds of techniques do you think they used? If this texture of color is very specific to a particular kind of brush or application technique, maybe that's what they used, and you can start guessing and extrapolating how the artist put it together. Does it look like the parts were individually machined or handmade? Does it look like the artist wanted you to see the tool marks, or did they want to polish it so it looked more finished? The third step, interpretation, this is where you step inside your mind even a little bit more. You take into account, where did this work come from? Do you know anything about the artist who made it? Do you know anything about the community that surrounded the artist who made it? What potential clues to its meaning can you see from how it looks and how you think the artist made it. All those things can inform to help inform you as you start imagining what are the meanings behind the piece. And what's interesting is that if two or more people are going to be, or if two people are looking at the same work of art, you're going to have three opinions about it. That's the way it always is. But when you use this process to go through it, you are going to be the most articulate person in the room when you talk about what's going on with the artwork. And this is a nice thing because you're expressing yourself, and you're expressing yourself precisely and articulately so that you can actually have a discussion about the artwork. There's not much of a discussion if two people look at it and say it's pretty, but they're both thinking it's pretty in different ways. But if you see one thing about the possible interpretation, and somebody else sees another thing about the interpretation, and you're both going off the same kind of description, but you have different perspectives on what that means, that can produce a really interesting discussion. And then the last step is the evaluation. Is it successful? In our case for this class, all of you are going to produce really nice work, but your grade is dependent on how that work directly relates to the desired outcome for the assignment. And in that case, the evaluation is directly related to how close did this come to meeting the requirements. But for, in every other situation, the evaluation is, did the person, does it look like they did have a clear interpretation? Was it well crafted? Was it crafted consistent with the message that they wanted to make? Does it look good to you? And with your experience, this is something that you do have a leg to stand on when you evaluate something, because you are evaluating it relative to these ideas that you have crystallized going through these other three steps. Does that process make sense to people?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Okay. And that, like I said, it's the Feldman technique of artistic critique. And the reason why it's important is because during this class, well, first the department told us that we had to look at proper ways to critique things and use big person vocabulary. I have 4 daughters, so I always refer to it as big girl words. Use your big girl words, which has gotten me in trouble at times. But it is important, especially in a university setting, to demonstrate your capacity for critical thinking and your capacity for expressing yourself using precise vocabulary. And that is one of the main reasons we talk about this. And there are other reasons too. But throughout the class, you're going to be doing different things. Like you're going to be applying that subtly in short essays that you write. You're going to be applying that more openly and directly when you do critiques of each other's work in some of the discussions. And we're only going to have a couple of those. But I want to share this with you again. So I'm sharing my view again. So this, I believe this still works. Some of these links, if they don't work, let me email me and I'll fix it. But this gives some examples. What everybody's going to be doing, notice that the due date on this is in November. So we have 3 months. What you're going to be doing is making a 3 to 5 minute video of one of your pieces that you have made for this class this semester, and a 3 to 5 minute video critiquing a work that somebody else in this class has made for this semester, that is where the imagery is shared in the class discussions. There is a class discussion for each of the modules, each of the things you make, specifically so you can submit a picture and everybody else can see your work. Now, these things aren't going to be due for 3 months, but I want you to have those tools of artistic critique in the back of your head, because that is what you're going to be applying when you create these critiques. And let's see, there is a video. We're going to watch this next week. We're not going to watch it right now. But what I love about this video is it demonstrates, like, just a few minutes ago, I think it was Emily that was saying that they have encountered things in the past they were not impressed with, and then later they actually enjoyed it and thought it was a cat's meow. And not her word, not their words. But what is interesting about this, when you first encounter this object, it is for a lot of people, it's very inaccessible. But through the short video clip, the two art historians are applying Feldman's method. And by the end of it, you actually have formed something of a relationship with this object. And most people, by the end of the video, actually enjoy looking at it. And I think it's a tremendous example of that process at work. And it only takes like 6 minutes or less. And you'll be doing it in 3 to 5 minutes with those videos. So now, I did want to mention attendance again. I'm going to be skipping around a little bit. I'm sorry if I'm confusing. My kids have told me that I have a brain like a pachinko machine, and 90% of what I'm telling you remains inside my head. So please forgive me and ask questions if you need to. But for attendance, this is online. So everything we're doing has to be something that you can do without the necessity of synchronous interaction, which means I will be posting this as a video and people who aren't here tonight can watch it. But to get credit for it, what you'll be doing is writing down 5 things that you learned during the Teams meeting. And that may be, some of the 5 things may be that Rachel has 3 kids that occasionally will hear if her microphone is kept on. It may be that Kim had Kim's Minis or Kim Minis in her Etsy store. It may also be something that I actually said that had any sort of relevance to the class. But you'll say 5 things, and that's how you get credit for it. And for this week, one of those 5 things will need to be the name of your object that you created from polyhedra.net. And then this is an old video right here, and it will be replaced with tonight's video that we make. But this is a video that I've made for everybody to watch. I'm going to see if okay, I don't think it's important to have the sound on it, but I am going to show it to you. The reason why I want to share this with you right now, and I want everybody to watch it, is because this demonstrates how I want you guys to photograph your work. When you're photographing work for this class, the photos need to be nicely done. I'm not expecting them to be professional, but all of you have a phone camera, a phone in your camera, and they're all really good quality. And if you don't, you probably have a roommate or somebody that you know who has one that, for a plate of brownies or something, will be happy to make it for you, let you use their camera. And I'm sorry, the only reason I said plate of brownies is because that's what I want to eat right now. But when you take your photo, part of your grade for every project you do will be the photo that you submit. And especially this module 1, we're going to be making houses, and it's to experiment a bit with different perspectives and different ways of framing the house that you make with your camera. But I wanted to show you this very simple way to make an infinity screen and to light it so that you can do a really nice photo of the work that you make. What we don't want is to have something like this as a background. So let's see. I don't know how annoying the music is. If it's annoying, I'll turn the sound off. But I want you guys to watch this right now. And I also have a link to this in the attendance thing that you can also watch if you don't get enough of it. All right, here we are. This is just me setting up an infinity screen to take a photo of an art object. Can everybody tell what this is, the white? It's just a regular sheet. And you can get one of those at DI for $1.50. And the lighting that I'm using are just a couple ring lights. If you don't have ring lights, you can. I have this set up on a floor, and I kind of need ring lights. You don't have ring lights, set it up on a countertop or a tabletop closer to your ceiling light, and you can even put a lamp near it. Take the shade off, set the lamp up, so you have pretty decent light. Now in this, I placed the object right there, and I'm kind of, you can see that I'm moving the lights around that I have to try to see if I can get it into good lighting. And I think at the very end, I show you what the picture looks like. Nope, I guess I didn't. Okay, but can everybody see? Uh, can everybody see how easy it is to set up an infinity screen to do a photo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. I have a question.
Sure.
By infinity screen, you just mean that there's not a sharp horizon line, right?
Right.
That it's
Yeah.
just sort
Yeah.
of a gentle curve in the back. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent question. You saw even with that sheet, I didn't take the time to iron it, and that is just fine. What I find that can be problematic is when people are taking photos and they set this on a table. Table's dark wood. The wall behind it is white, or there's uh, a pattern, a wallpaper pattern, or they set it on the couch or something like that. All those are distracting. But if you do something just as simple as putting a white sheet on the couch, make sure that you don't tuck the sheet in so you don't have that hard crease and it kind of curves a little bit. And then just set your object up on the couch cushion and take a photo like that. That can give you a pretty decent shot where the the object that you made is front and center. And that's what you want. I don't really want you to have to stress about professional quality shots, but I do want you to consider your work with kind of respect that it deserves and submit it with images that show off what you want people to see when they see your work. So I want these pictures to be respectful of what you do and kind of demonstrate that you care about your work. All right. Now, again, we're not designing masterworks in this class. That's not what this is for. But you should respect your work. You should respect the things that you learn or that you do. Um, I'm trying to get back to something and I am hitting all the wrong buttons. That's aggravating. Okay. So that's what that will look like. I do have extra credit and we'll talk about that later on. A lot of people have been doing the introductions and to pick up your kit, this um, this is where those kits are, I believe, in room 519. This is the sculpture lab, and they should be along the wall behind this door. And that's what they look like all set up. There is a uh, clipboard with a yellow sheet on it that you write your name in and that you picked it up. And it's going to be either on these, it's going to be right here on that shelf. So this picture right here is right behind, the left side of the door there. So it's right there. And somebody might have moved them, so it's on this side over here, could be against this wall, but you'll see a stack of boxes like this, and look for the clipboard that has a yellow sheet on it, or it could be a yellow pad of paper. Either way, and you'll need to pick your box up and put your name on it and put your I believe your student number on it. What if you can't make it to campus? You can have somebody who pick it up for you and just write your name down. That's fine. I've had lots and lots of people sending their mom or their sister or their spouse or their significant other of some sort, or to pick this up for them and take it to them, and that's fine. But when you pick this kit up, that's what your lab goes for. And Sharon and Jason have done a really good job packing it full of the most high value material for this class that you can think of. So they've done a really great job. And everybody needs to get this and get it as soon as they possibly can, because this is what this has the tag board for your first project, which is your house. And the cardboard in it, you're going to cut that up and use that for one of your other projects too. So everything in here is valuable for what you're doing in this class. And when you do this, after you pick it up, you will need to submit. Some people have submitted photos, and that's fine, but this is the assignment for that. And you get 10 points for telling me you picked it up. If you live out of state or somewhere else, you need a mailed to you, let me know immediately so we can get that in the mail to you. But read this. You must submit proof of the kit in your possession by telling me you picked up the box and that you filled out your info in the yellow list, in the yellow sheet. And let me show you. I'm going to see if I can. I'll show you what a good submission for this looks like. Give me just a second here. Almost there. Okay, here we go. All right, big thumbs up. And here's the box in their possession. And then they also showed me that they signed the sheet. So this is perfect. This is excellent. This is exactly what to do. All right, so pick up the kit, get it as soon as you possibly can, and you'll get credit for it. Now I do want to, let's see, we have about a half an hour left. I think that'll be enough time. I want to share this view with you. And this, again, is my view of our Canvas course page. This is module 7.A. If you look through, you'll notice that there's a lot of these don't have the interior stuff published yet. First couple are published. I would really appreciate it if you guys would point out where the dates are off or where they seem impossible, because I will do, when I transfer a course over in Canvas, I will ask it to switch the dates automatically, and it doesn't always do that for us. So let me know what I need to do to fix that. But a big part of this class is you're going to have several projects that you make, but part of this too is picking an artist from a list that we have and focusing on them as part of your artist research for this. And you're going to do a couple different things in relation to that. And we'll talk about it more as the semester goes on. But there's 4 different things that you have to do, and I have them labeled 7.A, 7.B, 7.C, 7.D. And because otherwise it feels really bogged down when you see it all in the same thing. And I should say, before we talk about that too much, though, you do have an option. If you don't want to do a presentation about an artist, you do have a service learning option. So I'll talk about both of those. First off, everybody in the class needs to read and this material right here. And this is where we talk about different artists, different things like that. So read this. The next one, and this is something else that everybody in the class has to do. It's the artist list. And notice that I say here, look up 12 of the 75 artists listed below. How many of those 75 artists do you have to look up? I would like somebody to tell me.
12.
12. Excellent. Do you have to look up all 75 of them? Somebody else.
No, you don't.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. That is important. I do not want anybody getting a migraine thinking that they've got to do this with all 75 artists. You just do 12. And I have here a list of artists that are the different artists that you will find out about in these modules. And we go through each of the modules, but then also I have another 30 artists or so that are really good to know about. And they deal with a lot of the same kinds of things, but we don't fit them into those other modules. And these artists I have picked, I love all of them. I think they're all absolutely astounding. And they come from all walks of life and all around the world. And some of them are ones you probably have heard of, maybe. Like hopefully you guys know who Slinkachu is. But and Andy Goldsworthy. And if you don't, you'll find out who they are really quick. Others you may not have heard of, but they're really worth finding out about. Doho Sa is really amazing. Magdalena Abekanovich is one of my very favorite artists in the entire universe. She is the person who established critical thinking in performance art. Just absolutely astounding. Betty Saar is everybody's favorite grandma. She's a woman of color from California who does stuff that she never intended to be politically powerful or humanistic or inspiring or feminist or any of those things. She just created stuff that she loved, that she thought she would have liked to see as a little girl growing up. And I love her work. Very powerful. Kara Walker is another woman of color who is an artist who, when you see her work, it makes you feel like somebody tore a scab off. I mean, it hurts, but then it's a good hurt. It's healing. And I love her stuff. And this is how all these artists are. They're all truly remarkable. But when you do this list, you pick one from this module one from this, one from this. You see that it says pick one, and then when you get down here, you pick 6. And it's important. What you're going to do for each of these 12 artists is look up in your web browser of choice the name followed by art, and then find an image of something that they made. You're going to write that down, what the title is of the piece, and then you're going to use 6 to 10 words to describe it. And I will show you. We're going to look up Al Farrow art. I'm going to do Al Farrow art. Do a search. And okay, I'm seeing different ones in the trigger finger, but this is a pretty good example of the kind of stuff that Al Farrow does right here. And in this case, I don't know where the title is, but I can look it up pretty easily. And I don't know if this is trigger figure of Santiago, but this gives me an idea of the kind of stuff that he does. So, and the short description would be something that looks like a reliquary using ammo. There's bullets and pistols. And it looks, and that's it. That's all I have to do. And you're going to do that for each of the 12 artists you pick. And once again, That's 1 artist from each of these 6 modules that are listed and 12 artists from this list. And the reason that this is important is later on you will be asked to decide if you want to do service learning or if you want to do the artist research. And some people like the service learning. Most people will do the artist research, and that's fine. But I want you to be aware of both things. Art is a tool that can be used for healing. Like I said, Kara Walker does a lot of healing with her work, and it's not healing that's easy. You know, it is sometimes very painful to look at her work, but it's important stuff. And part of that is you can use your talents as an artist, your unique talent set, to help with your community, to connect with people, do something that makes their lives easier and better somehow. And so the other part of this module is you're going to be thinking about service. You're not going to necessarily have to do service unless that's what you want to do, but I do want everybody to be aware that you can do service in the area. And so you will learn about this. And this video, we're not going to watch it, but I wanted to show you what you'll see when you click on that link. When I click on that link, I get to here, and this is a CBS News website, and it talks about how people do service without really thinking things through. And it's called The Second Disaster. And it's just a short little clip that I want you to look at and learn from. All right? And this is an ad, that's not it. But what is really fascinating about it is pictures like this, where this is a beach in Indonesia where people after, oh, I'm sorry, I stopped that this is the video that you're going to be watching. This is what it looks like. And it is called The Second Disaster. But this photo that we saw right here, in Indonesia, there a lot of people were killed because, and a lot of people had really horrible medical issues because of some severe flooding because of tsunamis. And so many people just sent them bunches of stuff thinking that they were helping, that actually they had to dump it. They had nowhere to put it. They dumped all these donations on the beach and started burning them because that was the only way they could get rid of it so more people didn't get sick. But then it also talks about some people like, oh, and this is when the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting happened. Everybody thought, oh, I've got to help somehow. And they had so many donations of fluffy toys for the surviving children that it filled up several warehouses. And they had to, in turn, donate these to somebody else who might be able to use them. But then you also find other people who, there was a brilliant woman when hurricane hit in New York State, where what she did was she set up an online store wedding registry specifically for the disaster relief, where people from around the country and around the world could go in to Amazon or Target, look up the registry for the disaster relief, and then buy and have sent the exact items that people needed. The reason why that's important is that as we move forward and think about service in the community, it is really important to consider the fact that we have got to make sure that our service has value, that we're paying attention, that we're not going in thinking, oh, I can solve all the problems, but we're all going in thinking, what can my skill set, how can my skill set be used to help the people in a way that it really needs, they really need help. So the first assignment for this module is artist research or service learning. Do you want to do the artist research route where you pick an artist and do a couple research projects on that artist? And each of them are only going to be a couple hours. Or are you going to do the service learning route where you find a need in the community and then figure out a way to apply your unique skill set as an artist to this? So we're not talking about setting up chairs for community service or something. What we are talking about is things like painting a custom skateboard for a restaurant, that's failing because of COVID, and using your specific skills with social media to help people see the art on your skateboard in relation to that store and basically help them to survive COVID. Or building a sculptural chicken coop for a retired military veteran in the community, and getting all the getting neighbors to come together to help to build the chicken coop, or designing and creating stage sets for community theater. Those are the kinds of things you can do in service learning. And if you are interested in doing the service learning, reach out to me, talk to me, and I will help you get some ideas, because there are several different places on campus that you can go that will help you connect with people. There you can actually start the project with them, where your project has meaning, and it will help you develop a connection with them. Once you decide what you're going to do, and we're going to go back to modules really quick so you can see that page. Once you decide what you're going to do, if you're going to do the service learning or the artist research, you are only going to do the assignments for the artist research or only the assignments for the service learning. So if you decide you're going to do artist research, you're only going to do artist research option. And in this one, you're going to tell the class which artist you're selecting from that list of 75. If you're going to do service learning, you're going to go to this and follow this assignment and turn that in. But you are not responsible for both, excuse me. And I try to make this really clear, where you're basically listing some of the skills that you have as an artist and listing some of the groups that you can contact. And then you're just going to write 3 short paragraphs, 1 to 3 sentences. So it could be as short as 3 sentences addressing each of these 3 ideas. And that's it. And in every case, you're going to be keeping track of your time in a work log. So again, once you decide artist research or service learning, you're only going to do artist research or service learning. You're not going to do both. And as soon as I see you plug this in, I am going to I'm going to make it so you can't do the other one. So if you just choose service learning, I'm going to remove this from your to-do list. That, because you should only be responsible for this. And you'll notice as you go through each module has a work log, and it's only worth 5 points. But what you do is write down what the time and activities you did for the specific module. And that is not a difficult thing to do. This is another department mandate that we have, so you can keep track and value your time. And this is what a typical work log is going to look like. On Tuesday, I did this, Thursday, Friday, whatever, rough idea of the hours I worked, and then at the end, my total time. And the work log is only for the work you did for that module. And it should include the quizzes that you take, or the quiz that you took for that, the writing that you did for that, the research you did for that, if you did research. Right. Now, I know I'm moving kind of fast, but does everybody understand what I've been talking about so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any questions about what we've covered? No questions? Excellent. Okay. Now, module 1, this is your first project. Your first project, and I will go through this really quick. We have about 12 minutes left. I want to cover this and get you started. And then when we meet on Wednesday, I want to see that people have done some stuff. And notice here, it says August 31. I don't think it's going to be done that quickly, especially since we have a holiday. So I want you guys to know, I do tell you that you have a 3-day grace period, and you lose 10% if things are late and everything like that. For everybody that watches this video, know that that is not going to apply to any of these things. I am going to change these due dates, and I need your input to do that on Wednesday so that we can change these so that they reflect reality. But I'm just going to leave this here for all the people who sweat it out until they actually watch this video and realize, oh, I don't have to worry about this in this case. I know that's kind of mean, but it will reward everybody that watches the video. Anyway, I want to take you through really quickly what a typical module for this class is going to look like. And there's 6 projects. Each module is going to be about 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more. Okay, most of these will have an introduction where we talk about it. And this gives you an idea of what most of the stuff is going to be like. And I say in-class activity, construct house. We're not doing that in class. You guys are going to be doing that on your own time because this is an online course. All right. But this gives you an idea of what this module might look like and introduces it. It goes to the next element. Sometimes I will have the reading declared specifically, read chapters 1 and 2. Sometimes that's just going to be in the title for the quiz. Now, what I would recommend, if you don't have your book coming until after the first quiz is due, what I would say is, and I would do this for any assignment that you think you're going to come down to the wire on, turn in what you've got as soon as you can, and then you'll see the grade and everything, and I'll say you got to change these things, change it and resubmit it, and that's fine. Your grade will go up. I have absolutely no problem giving a better grade to anybody who's going to go through and do that. But this is what the quiz. This is where the quiz is, and I'm going to show you a preview so you can see kind of what the quiz looks like. And this is going to be the way it is for all the quizzes. You're going to have true and false questions, and these directly relate to the textbook. You're also going to have short answer questions. One reason why an artist should consider their audience, and you're going to type that in. So some of these, the computer can grade. The rest, I'll go through and double check. And things like this, fine arts and applied arts, the answer is in the textbook. Right here, the answer is in the textbook. And there's a couple other examples like this, the extremes of material choice, the answer there is in the textbook. And if your textbook isn't there and you've got to turn the quiz in anyway, put whatever answer you can in. Sometimes you get it right, most of the time you don't. And when I grade it, I'll just tell you, for more points, you've got to go back and change these. Use the text. That's fine. Once you get this turned in, if you do have to resubmit for more points, you can resubmit right up to the end of the course. Okay, so you buy yourself a lot of time. French's experience doing this is also in the textbook, and you can see all these things. So each of the quizzes, they have questions that seem obvious, but all of them have several questions that are ringers that you can only get right using the textbook, because you're not going to come up with the textbook specific answer just by doing a Google search. All right, so we saw the quiz. Now this is an important element that is going to be consistent with every module. This gives you kind of background for the assignment. By exploring and being introduced to with little short videos. This is 9 minutes. That's about the longest of any of the videos. Most of them are going to be 3 to 5 minutes. But remember that we had the list of artists for each module. In each module, you have those artists, and there's videos that introduce you to their work. All right? And I want you to look at each of their things. Now, Alejandra, the videos they have are on their website. And if any of these links aren't working, tell me, and I will find alternate links and fix it. So we have 8 different artists in here, and this is what that background looks like. You see examples of the kinds of things ideas we're addressing in this particular module. And then you're going to write a short essay. Now, as artists, we're artists because we communicate through the work that we build, not because we're excellent communicators with our words. I do not expect this to be profound, deeply spiritual, another Ernest Hemingway or Sharon Nishad. It doesn't matter to me how good your writing is, as long as you follow rules of grammar and spelling. What is important to me is that you are able to articulate what you view. Some people are tempted to use AI to do this. You can use AI to outline, but you still have to be the one to do the writing. I'm not interested in the essay. What I'm interested in is the evidence of your thinking through these ideas. So one easy way to make this artist review is to copy this section where I outline what each paragraph is supposed to have in it into a new document. And then in between these, you write the paragraphs for each one. And a paragraph is 3 to 5 sentences. So you write three to 5 sentences describing what you learned from looking at that group of 8 artists for this essay. Each module has a slightly different one. Paragraph 2, you're going to articulate which artist's work you like the most and why, give some specifics. And paragraph 3, list and give a brief explanation of the ways the artist you like the most went about involving the viewer. Please identify at least 4 methods. And you will learn what those are as you go through the quiz and read those first 2 chapters. Right? So all of these things are related to each other. And in order to actually turn in the assignment, you have to go through all of these parts of each module. And then here we get the description of the project. You are going to be making a house like this. And these are really good examples of ones that I liked. And then you're going to be photographing them, and you're going to be creative about your photography. Notice these 2 are of the same house. And you're going to be submitting 5 photos of the house that you make. You're only going to make one house. But these 5 photos each one needs to be different. Notice that there's, like this one, they put a light inside of it, put it on a shelf in a pantry. Here you can see the light because they turn off the lights in the room. Sometimes people will do this where it's kind of funny, where it's in front of the door of a bigger house. Here's a huge house in front of another house, but makes this look really big. As you construct these, I want you to be creative and thoughtful about constructing them. You can go online, and I talk about this in here. We'll talk about it more on Wednesday, but I want you to get started going through this. At least by Wednesday, have the quiz done, do all the background stuff, write the essay, and start working on these. Even if that working on them is just sketching them out and designing them. And we'll talk more about it on Wednesday, because what you're going to be doing is creating something about the size of 2 of your fists together. You're going to be doing interesting things to it, like this. They played around with visual texture in the roof and different stuff. And here they stamped it with rolling stamps they got from a craft store, so it looks like bricks on the cardboard that they used. You're going to be doing things to it that make it interesting by itself, but also fun for you to photograph. And then you're going to be submitting 5 different photos of your house with different lighting conditions from different perspectives, having it in different settings. I think one of the less successful ones that I've seen of this is where somebody made a little diorama around their house and then took 5 different shots of the house as they walked around it. That's not going to work. But taking this house, taking a photo on the ground, putting it on the branches of the tree you see behind it, setting it up at the base of a drain spout or in the middle of a parking lot, putting it in front of a house and getting really up close to it, or standing farther away, making it look really small, putting it in a barnyard scene where you have chickens around. And, think of creative things. I've had things where Pacific Rim just came out, that movie, and people took a short film of their toddler destroying their house. Of course, that was the last of the 5 images that they did. But that's the kind of thing that we're looking for this one. Again, and I do give links to a couple things where people showed how to make simple cardboard houses. And I love this. I'm going to show this one to you really quick. This is an artist that makes these tiny houses, and then he does little animations with them. And this is just to inspire you with the different kinds of things that you can do. But I want you to be mindful of the possibilities. Make sure that this object that you make, that again is only the size of your two fists together. So it's not very big. I don't know if you can see my hands. It's about that big. That's all. But I want you to make it demonstrating your craftsmanship as an artist, your creativity, and making it so that it looks like it's fun for you to photograph. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking at. People have made houses that look like mushrooms, that look like houses from the 1920s. One person reproduced the cabin that their grandpa made in Idaho, that their family goes to for holidays every year. There's lots of different things that you can do. And again, we'll talk about more about it on Wednesday, but specifically look at those video links that I have to give you ideas of how to construct the house. Because the construction would be very simple, and then you can paint it, you can do whatever you want with it to give it a lot of rich texture and make it fun to photograph. People have made stained glass windows by using clear cellophane or clear transparencies that they've colored with like Sharpie markers. And then they cut a hole out for a window space in a little building that they made and glue that in. And you get in your kit some file folders, manila file folders, and you can use that to make your house. All right? So get your kits by this weekend. Start making the houses right away. They, like I said, the spoiler is they're not going to be due over the weekend of Labor Day. We're gonna change that, but I want to keep that on there just to make people sweat for a couple more days until more people have seen the video. Because I'm a jerk, but I will change that due dates. All right, now we are all done with the stuff that I needed to cover. Does anybody have any questions? All right. Rather than anybody having any questions, I would like to hear from three people. Are there questions that you think that other people taking the class might have?
I do have a question.
Okay, Peyton.
Um, with the prep for the first day of class assignment that's due today, are we supposed to show our shape on the live stream or not?
Oh, well, we don't have any time left, so that's probably we can't.
Okay.
I would like you guys to at least name it, but if you could, I will give you an extra point for attendance if you include in your submission for attendance a photo of it. So for
Okay.
those, you get those 5 points, you need to name your shape, and that needs to be one of the five things that you talk about for your attendance. And if you want a 6 point, submit a photo of what you did too. But that's really good. How many of you guys made the shape before this meeting today?
I did.
I did.
All right.
I did.
What shape did you guys make?
I
Let's
did.
start with. Okay. Let's see. It looks like Jessica, Emily, and Peyton. Anybody else?
I did too.
Okay. Rachel.
Me as
Kayla.
well.
Okay, Sarah. Excellent. So I'm just going to go starting with Rachel. What was the shape you made?
The shape I made was a hexagrammic antiprism.
Excellent. Very cool. Sarah, what was the shape you made?
I did the octagonal prism.
Okay, great. Jessica, what was the shape you made?
I did the pentagrammic antiprism.
All right, excellent. Emily, what was the shape you made?
The rhombic dodecahedron.
All right, very cool. Jassiel, did you make a shape? Or did you finish it before the meeting?
I haven't finished it yet.
Okay, what was the one you picked?
The sorry, I can't say it. It's the truncated tetrahedron.
Oh, truncated tetrahedron.
Yeah.
All right, excellent, very cool. Kayla, what was the shape you made?
And a square antiprism.
Excellent. Peyton, what was the shape you made?
The pentagrammic pyramid. Hi.
All right, great. And Kim, what was the shape you made?
I did the truncated octahedron as well.
All right, excellent, very cool. I wanted you guys to make those shapes as we get started because as you're cutting it and folding it together, all of you noticed a shift in what was going on. You cut the shape out and it may not look like it could be anything, but as you start folding it, how many of you realized, oh, wait a sec, and this is going to be something in 3-dimensional? How many of you recognized that shift?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just an experience that I want you to have, and that's why everybody needs to make one of those shapes and put it together. You're not going to use it for anything else, but just I want you to experience that shift from very 2-dimensional to very 3-dimensional, and kind of remember that weird little shift in the brain. But thank you very much. You guys all picked uh, none of you picked the easiest shapes that you could go with. So that's kind of exciting for me, but it gives you a little bit more work. But I'm glad you guys did it. So if you want the 6 point for attendance, and this is if you're here live or watching this later, then send in along with those 5 things that you list about the video tonight. Send an image of the thing that you made too, and you'll get credit for that. All right. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I am really looking forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday. And are there any last comments anybody has to make before we separate for the weekend?
Nope.
All right. Great. Thank you so much for being here. Be safe. And I look forward to seeing y'all on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll see you.